Hello, everyone. I'm Dara Bunjon. I am the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a very frustrated baker. Never worry about missing our shows live. They are up for perpetuity on J Moore Living's Facebook page and webpage. So feel free to go back into the shows, listen to the various guests, take us for a walk, a run, or a drive. Thanksgiving is just around the corner, then Hanukkah. Thanks to vaccines this year, more homes will be open to entertaining. Dulany Noble is my guest this week, known for her stylish entertaining. We're going to talk about easy entertaining, food tips, serving it up savory, smart, and stylish. Dulany is the owner of Gala Cloths. Dulany has dressed numerous tabletops from small parties to gatherings in the hundreds. Her newest endeavor is Dulany Dishes, where she focuses in on plant-based meals and pescatarian recipes. Good afternoon, Dulany. What's on your plate today?
Oh, I've been trying to clear out the garden, getting ready. All the containers have to be undone because they will crack the china will crack in the wintertime. So that's what I've been doing, digging in the dirt all morning, and now talking to you.
Well, you clean up really nice.
Well, thank you.
And I know how beautiful your garden is. So not
Oh,
only
thanks.
are your tabletops, um, what's it, Berry Patch Farm, way out
Yes,
in, what's it, Upperco? Upperco.
we are in Upperco. We're just north of Reisterstown and south of Hampstead.
Beautiful place,
Thank
garden.
you.
You just have taste oozing out of you.
Oh,
Just
well, thank you. You're very
re-
kind.
really. Well, the reason I wanted to have you on the show because I've been to your house at Christmas
Yep.
time. I've been different times, and you're a true believer in um, setting a beautiful table.
I
And
do.
from what I gather in notes, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. What was your inspiration?
Well, I think I was very lucky to grow up the way I did, and I grew up in Owings Mills, and my parents loved to entertain. They entertained all the time. My mother did wonderful tea parties with all the silver china, the sugar cubes. There's a story about me when I was when I was a little bitty thing invited to my first tea party, and my mother said, "Do not touch the table." And I was sent out of the room 3 times because I touched the table because I just had to. And so that I remember that one particularly. And they always, my parents were depression babies. They had nothing really, and were not very well off. But from the very beginning, my brother and I had to dress for dinner. And my father, who was a surveyor, came home and changed into a coat and tie, and my mother dressed, and they played Strauss waltzes on the radio if they could. And we had candles and china and silver and glass every single night, and they loved doing it. And she loved to entertain. She had a whole series of summer soirees, as she called it, and from the time I could carry a tray, I was carrying trays, passing hors d'oeuvres. They had people come. We had a little sort of farmette, and they would come and then walk out to the vista, which was just a little ways from the house, and sit out there. And I would bring the hors d'oeuvres, and Daddy had a cart, and they had music out there. And then we would come into the house, and there would be individual tea trays around the front of the house, and they would go in for a buffet and come out, and no one was allowed to sit next to their spouse. And when it came after dinner, when everybody went in for dessert, they all were told they couldn't sit where they sat before, and they had to sit next to somebody else. And I just remember that it was good fun. She did it all summer, every other week. She would have a dinner party for about 10 people, and she had the same menu all the time. It was simple food, like tomato aspic, stuffed with crab, and maybe a side dish or a salad because they had great gardens, and then individual desserts. And I think what I learned from her particularly was to keep it pretty much on the simple side, so that you're not out in the kitchen the entire time. And I think that's a really important lesson from the get-go. But we had everything on this little on this little format. We had dogs, Saint Bernards, cats who had kittens, and ducks. There was a rooster that didn't stay long, a pigeon, a pony. So there was always a lot of going on there. My mother taught. She was an amazing woman. She taught writing and dramatics at Garrison Forest School, and she had a florist. She worked for a florist at some time, and that was why the gardens were so beautiful. And I just am passionate about those things too.
Well, like I said, it doesn't fall far from the
No.
tree. And, talking about moving guests around, that's something that I like to do. And sometimes I do it at dessert, so people are talking to different people.
Right.
And
Right.
you want the conversation. To me, there's nothing better than a dinner party and people commiserating and talking and getting to know people. And from my table, I'm sort of like your mother. I might have a menu, it might change slightly. I just rotate the guests. It's the same
That's
menu.
exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
And I tend, yeah, yeah, I tend to do the same thing right now. I'm sort of in my fall mode, so I'm doing a hearty soup. I love making soups, and I have a lot of recipes for soups. And then a Caesar salad, or just a green salad, and then for dessert, I might have like an apple crisp or whatever seasonal. I try to do that, and everything can be done ahead of time, and I think that's what people get in trouble with. They try something complicated or that needs a lot of last minute tending. Last night I made risotto. Risotto takes a lot of tending. You have to stand there for half an hour and stir and stir and
Sure.
stir.
Yeah.
So that's not something you want to serve for dinner. You want to serve something that you can make either the day before, like a soup, or early in the day, like a apple crisp or a cherry crisp, or any of those things that are seasonal right now. They're very easy to do. You serve it warm, the dessert warm with ice cream, and you're done. I mean, and then very light hors d'oeuvres. I think people get carried away sometimes with the hors d'oeuvres, and they have all this brie and cheese and crackers and dips, and then by the time you get to dinner, you're not even hungry. So I've scaled it down ginormously. Just maybe mixed nuts or some good olives, or maybe a whipped feta, something just really not too filling, to just whet their appetites while you're sort of finishing up things or talking, or talking with everybody. And the other thing that I really try to do as best I can is to keep it short. Like, I sometimes go to people's houses, and they're wonderful to entertain, and they're wonderful to cook our dinner and everything, but an hour and a half after we get there, we still haven't gotten to the table, and that makes me crazy. you know it's just too long. I mean, you sit there and get silly with wine, and then and then by the time you get to dinner, you're not even hungry anymore. So I try to keep it really half an hour, 40 minutes, and then
Well,
dinner.
that's what I try to do. But in the new apartment, the oven is not as reliable
Yes.
as it was in the house. So I've had it was a little bit extended, but we sat around the couch and we had some munchies and pate and stuff like that. And they were all commiserating, and it was great fun. I do have a question for you.
Okay.
What did your mom think of TV dinners? How about you?
TV dinners. Oh my goodness. Well, back in the day, I mean, I'm old. I'm 72. And so back in the day, it was a huge treat. Like, if they went out for dinner or to the theater or to the symphony or whatever, we would be treated to TV dinners with the tin foil and all that sort of thing. And that was so exciting. Um,
And
I,
that you
you
had to
know,
stick in the oven. There was no microwave at the
there
time.
was no microwave. Sorry, I have this terrible cough. So that was a big treat for my brother and me. And today I try to keep maybe one or two, something in the freezer, um, if I'm not going to be home and Jimmy needs to eat, my husband,
Right.
needs to have something that there might be a healthy choice or something like that. I don't rely on them very much.
Well, sometimes they're in the freezer. I don't feel like cooking, and I go,
Right.
okay,
Right.
that's it. And they've improved. They've
Yes.
improved over the years.
Oh,
The
yes.
select,
They're much better there. So some of the things that I see at Aldi and Wegmans and all, they have some really healthy choices right now with the bowls, the veggie bowls. I like those. And if I do, if I do not feel like cooking, and it's a late night or if I've been riding all day or whatever, my go-to is a cauliflower pizza, and then I add on to the toppings, like a vegetarian cauliflower pizza, and then I add on the toppings to that. So sorry.
that's okay. You know what? Entertaining. I'm from your generation, and I like setting a beautiful table.
Yes.
And I have, along with you, you've hung on, you do the silver and everything on the table. I got rid of the silver just because, but it doesn't mean that I'm not putting a tablecloth on and I'm not using my Staffordshire or my mitten china or my knife rest. I still want it to be a pretty table. Um, but I think it's gotten lost on the younger people. What do you think?
I think so. There's a tendency for this generation coming through, the millennials or whatever, um, that they don't seem to be interested in the china, the silver, the glass, which is kind of too bad. I understand there's some sort of bounce back with grand millennials that are actually taking an interest in the china, silver, and glass, and there's so much available for very inexpensively. You can go to any consignment store or flea market or wherever and find pretty china, and just have it and use it. Uh, it's too bad. I think that they're missing out. That's not to say that they shouldn't entertain, and they can entertain. I am so sorry about this.
That's
I
okay.
mean, when people are entertaining, you don't even necessarily have to cook. You could order in and make it much more of an experience than just opening the pizza boxes on the kitchen table. You could actually like put a red check tablecloth on the table and maybe some Chianti bottles and make it more like something fun to do. I mean, you don't have to have fancy china per se, or you could do the same thing with Italian night or Greek night or something that you could just add to what you have and do it very inexpensively. Even sushi. I mean, you could do something with that. Put the sushi out on a plate besides, not the plastic box that it comes in.
Right, right. Well, I've been to a couple homes and there's nothing wrong with it, and it could be a
No.
holiday dinner, but they're doing paper plates. It might be dressy, but it it rubs
Hmm.
me. It rubs me. I mean, like you said, you can go to the consignment shops. And it's even fun to do a tabletop with mixed match plates. So you can go and
Yes. Yep.
very inexpensively dress up the table from what you find at Goodwill or any of the consignment shops or Facebook Marketplace. I've been decorating my apartment with
Hmm.
finds from there.
Well,
Um,
there's also, the Home Sense and Home Goods and all those places. And if you just are looking at tabletop inspirations on Instagram, there's a whole lot of them. I follow a bunch of people. The Classic Hostess, which is here, she's here in Maryland someplace, but I've never seen her. But how she sort of styles her table with like multiple different kinds of china, it's gorgeous and it's fun, and I think it's so enjoyable, and it's fairly easy to do. I mean, it's not that hard with very
no,
little effort. And I like a china plate. I must say, I'm not real fond of plastic plates or paper plates.
right?
I've done
Well,
it. I had a party here for my daughter who was very low key, and we were outside and out on the porch. This is just her birthday was the 7th. So we were outside. We had a fire pit and we had some propane heaters, and then I had plastic plates that I used for my Hanukkah party, and everybody used them, and it was fine for that kind of environment. But we did have a pretty table with pretty flowers and the tablecloth, and the place looked lovely. Everything looked lovely. But it was that kind of a party, and it was that kind of very informal party, as opposed to people coming here for dinner.
Right. How old is your house on Berry Patch Farm?
Parts of it are, we found a beam up in the attic that said 1861. Part of it was a log cabin here in this room where I am. This is our dining room. Is a log cabin. And then there were pieces that were added onto it. It was a two-story, I think it was a two-story log cabin, which is kind of extraordinary. And we don't know about all the previous owners, but two owners before us. The man that lived here was a horse and buggy doctor, and delivered babies right in this dining room. So right here.
Okay, that's terrific. With Thanksgiving coming,
yes.
Any tips for Thanksgiving for people for entertaining, tabletops, decorating, simple to elegant, cheap to cost, let me not say cheap, cost effective.
Cost effective.
Cost effective.
Well, I'm a big, I love candles. So I would say that's something you could do really inexpensively if it's a votive. Right now, I'm having a hard time finding tapers anywhere. I don't know why that is. I like tapers. I think they look pretty on a table, but I can't find them. I have to order them online. I can find them online. I was just trying to find them locally. Right. But votive candles, you can find votive candles anywhere. You can find them at a consignment shop. You can find them at a flea market. You can find them at, Home Goods. You can find them at any Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and and even the dollar store. So that's very candlelight is really romantic and can really set the stage. And I love flowers. I love flowers. And you can do on the cheap. You can go to Aldi and get a bunch of flowers for $4.99 or $5.99. Trader Joe's has an amazing collection of flowers that are very inexpensive. You can buy a whole status I bought the other day to fill in an arrangement. It's like $4 for a big bunch of status, which lasts forever, by the way, if you ever want to do that. And you can also use,
No, go ahead.
And then if you have any gardens at home, hydrangeas are fabulous. They are good from the very minute they bloom in the spring till the end of the year. They dry beautifully. They look pretty, and they last a very long time. Let me see. I'm going to turn this around a little bit. So here on my table, sorry, the messy table, but I think, do you see the hydrangeas in the ball?
Yeah.
Okay, they were picked probably 2 weeks ago. And then, no, 2 weeks at least, maybe even 3 weeks ago. So I also, I took the hydrangeas. This is something else that's really easy to do. And you can make anything. So right here behind me is the hydrangea wreath I made.
Okay.
So that is just isn't that pretty? And it'll last. I did that probably a month ago at least, and it's still holding up. So it'll come down when I start putting my Christmas stuff up. And the other thing is, go to the flea market, not the flea market, the farmer's market, and get I went to Waverly a couple of weeks ago, and they had so many fabulous gourds and pumpkins and all kinds of different things that you could use down the center of your table. I mean, you could use grapes, you could use squash, you could use any of these pumpkins and gourds, which are so pretty right now. The gourds are amazing and they're really inexpensive. And it's just set them down at the center of the table and intersperse some votive candles. And you have, or leaves, you can take leaves and put there's tons of leaves out there right now, use them and just go down right down the center of the table. It's very interesting. People can look at it, and then it really dresses up the table very easily. And then if you want to go to a little extra expense, you can rent a tablecloth.
Well, I was blessed when you used to do with Gala Cloths. You would sell off some of the cloths that were had slight
Yeah,
wear on it. And because I was doing a lot of food styling on TV, I could take the tablecloths and I took the rubber bands and the bunches, different
exactly.
colors,
Right.
and I still have some of the big rounds for a ten top, and then I
Right.
put another cloth over it, and that's a simple thing somebody can do.
Absolutely. You could do a runner. And then the other thing that I really think people have gotten away from, and for some reason this drives me crazy, because environmentally, paper napkins and paper towels are such a total waste and a burden on the environment. Buy some napkins. I mean, buy a dozen napkins or maybe a dozen and a half, and you just use them every day. You can buy them again. I was in Home Goods or one of them. I don't know which one I was in the other day. They had hem stitch napkins that were cheap, really cheap. And I love a hem stitch napkin. It's my favorite napkin to use. It's always good for as elegant or even for an informal luncheon. They're fabulous. And you just throw them in the water. You have to pre-spot them, but pre-spot them and then use them over and over and over again. I never use paper napkins. It's a total waste, and they're not very efficient either, in my opinion.
Now, I have a drawer full of napkins, and
Right.
I think you said earlier notes that you can have fun with these napkins and how you fold them. People, you've gone into
Yep.
restaurants, they've had unusual folds, some they stick the flatware in it, and just go to YouTube and you can find all of these. I have some books, but
Yes, you can find a
there's
ton of napkin folding on YouTube. And then I love a napkin ring, and I probably have a dozen different sets of napkin rings. Again, when I see them, I buy them or I make them. I made these this summer for a dinner
oh,
party. Ah, there they are, and they were
is
really
that
easy
like
to make.
a hair ribbon? No, no, no.
No, no, it was just
That's a ring.
I bought some fake flowers at the Michaels or someplace, and then I took
Like with
I covered the ring and made these. But I have hundreds, not hundreds. I might have 100, but I have lots of napkin rings. I have a lot of foxes in this house, so this napkin ring is one of my favorites. And I have a lot of horse things because I ride, and so there are a lot of equestrian things here. Or just buy a bolt of ribbon. Ribbon makes you happy, and
mhm.
tie a bow on it. Learn how to tie a bow properly so that the bow comes out right, and it just makes you smile. With a bright, happy piece of ribbon on it. It's very easy to
Well,
do.
right. I know when I entertain, people come in and look at the table, and whether it be flowers or whatever I've done on the table, sort of lifts the party to another level, and they
Exactly.
feel special because you've done this for them.
Right.
Um,
And and it's not that hard. That's what people, I think they get really intimidated by entertaining, when it's really, if you just keep it simple and do things ahead of time so you don't have to be
right.
again in the kitchen all night. That is, it's easy to do, whether you make it yourself or order in, but make an effort. I mean, people love to come to dinner. Everybody loves to be invited to a dinner party.
There's something so much more intimate about it, and things
Yes,
are opening up now, and people are having people to their homes. I have another question for you here. How
sure.
many different sets of china do you have? And then one just for special occasions.
Well, I have a lot. I don't know how many sets I have. I have my wedding china, which is the Lenox. I have a set of the Hunt plates, and then I have my mother's plates, my aunt's plates. All right, so here's the thing.
Okay.
I did a dinner party for my book club. We read Aaron French's book, and I highly recommend that book, by the way. Everybody should read that book because it's so good. Well, she was a person that found things. She would go out and find stuff. So she had, every plate was different on her tables in her restaurant. So I had enough to do 12. So that'll tell you how many plates I have, how many collections I have. And then I did found things. I went out into the woods, into the pastures, into the whatever, and picked goldenrod and
That's
daisies,
great
and
idea.
yeah. So I did all that, and I put them right down the center of the table. So Erin French, you can't get in her restaurant by reservation, and so you have to send her a postcard to get into the lottery. And so I had postcards at everybody's place, so they could fill out the postcards, and then we're going to send them in. I think you send them in April. I think that's what my understanding is. But highly recommend that book, by the way. It's a great book.
Where's her restaurant?
So it's in Maine. It's what is it called? Finding The Lost Kitchen. She's fabulous. She has a TV show. I can't get it because it's on Magnolia or whatever, but she was on the Today Show the other day, and she's just as cute as she can be. A most amazing life that she went through with getting this restaurant. She lost her restaurant. She was a single mom. She grew up at a diner. Her story is amazing.
And it's a book
Oh,
is called.
the book is called Finding Freedom. So that night for book club, I found 2 recipes from her. One was a um, chicken recipe, chicken thighs, and the other was a Waldorf salad because she loved a Waldorf salad. So I made that for the book club, right out of not out of that book, but out of one of her other cookbooks. She has
Right.
several.
Now, how many years ago did you start Gala Cloths? I mean, you have such taste in the array of cloth. How long ago did you start it?
Well, I worked for a couple of other rental companies, but I started my company in '91, and I had a lot of employees. We had as many as 17 employees and 3 outside sales reps. And then things changed a lot. You had to be so current all the time. That was my problem, that we always had to be something new. Everybody wanted, well, what new do you have? What new do you have? So I was going to retire actually, but I could have rethought what I was doing. I merged with another company, or I'm working with another company, but I'm still Gala Cloths here in Baltimore, in Maryland. And it's a great fun. I love it.
Yeah. Any unusual stories from events that you've covered, the tables, with anything humorous or?
All right. Well, I'll tell you one story. It's not about how I covered them, but I had a hunt breakfast here. I chase foxes, and we had a hunt breakfast. It was a fundraiser, and one of the things that my mother made was kidney stew. Now, it's a tough thing to make. You have to boil the kidneys like 3 times. It has to be beef kidneys. You have to, but it's delicious. In my opinion, it's great. None of my family like it. My brother likes it, but I love it. So I said, I'll make it, and I'll see if anybody likes it. Well, it was all gone. And I went outside to talk to some of the people that were here. And one of the guys said, what was in that kidney stew? And I said, that would be kidneys. Really? There were kidneys in the kidney stew? I said, yeah, there were kidneys in the kidney stew. It was really good. I've never had kidneys before. And people, back in the old days, in my mother's generation, that's what they cooked. They cook kidney stew. They cook livers. They cook chicken livers. That was a cheap food back then.
Right. Well, nothing went to waste. When you honor the animal,
that's exactly right. Nothing went to
waste. Yeah,
that was my mother. Nothing went to waste.
Okay, so if somebody's looking to get a tablecloth, to go out and buy a tablecloth for their table, how many inches should it be over the edge? Because if you go through like a Ross for Less and you get a rectangle, they give you like 2 inches on the. It's not big enough.
Yeah. So that's the thing that people don't quite get, but I recommend about 15 inches if you have a pretty table. If you're renting a table, that's a different thing. I think it should go to the floor. But if you have a dining room table, most of those dining room tables are about 42 inches wide. So you're looking for something that's 42 plus 15 plus 15, so 72 inches wide. And then the length, depending on what that is.
I'm just looking at my notes.
Okay.
I have so many here. We've covered.
Okay.
What is the best advice you would give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh, that's when I remember that question. Let's see. I wrote something down here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that people worry so much about entertaining and that it be a perfect night and that everything turns out well and whatever. It doesn't. Your guests are just so happy to be there. They
Right.
really, they just want to be there. So I think keeping it simple, and then just doing it. I would, and of course I did. So, but not to be perfect. And back when I first started entertaining a bit, I took on quite a, I do beef bourguignon and all these other. I was like, yeah, I don't do that. And the other thing is, I wish I kept a diary of all the entertaining that I had done and who was there and what we served. I did that not very well, and I wish I had, because I could look back now and think about all those dinner parties, like the one you were at for Christmas when we had the wine and food. Was it wine and food or
It was
NACE?
American Institute of Wine and
Wine and
Food.
food.
And
That
I
was pretty. That was
remember,
pretty intimidating. All those people. Woo.
but the interesting thing was Barry Fleischman,
Yes.
who at that time was Innovative Gourmet, and Jerry
Yep.
Edwards, Chef's Expression, and they are really wine aficionados.
Yes.
And I was gobsmacked where I think um, Jerry had a wine. He poured it for Barry. He didn't know what it was. And Barry came up and said it was a Burgundy from yada, 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 1995. And Jerry says, you're a year off.
Ah.
Something. I
Yeah.
was so taken back that his palate and his nose was that good. I'm losing my earphone here a little
Uh oh.
bit.
Uh oh.
I
And
am
then
a
and
place.
then also just to timing is everything. I think you need to, and that comes with practice. That this takes a certain amount of time, and that takes, and making it all coming out at the same time, that takes practice. But you can do it.
Right. So I want to remind people that Dulany, you can find out about her cloths at galacloths.com.
Yep.
She is doing an Instagram page called Dulany Dishes.
Yes.
And this is more or less about creating the vegetarian dishes as well as pescatarian and
Yes.
making the table look bright and entertaining. So you
Hmm.
can follow that. And Dulany also has given us a recipe for a cranberry apple mix for your
Casserole.
Thanksgiving
Yep. Yep.
casserole. It's very simple, looks delicious. And any great epic culinary fail that you care to share?
Oh dear. Well, I tried. My mother could make them, but I could. My mother made a great cheese souffle. I'd never, I never could make them work. I just never. I tried, and then I tried some dessert souffles, like a Grand Marnier one that I tried over and over and over. Yeah, I never could do it. I don't know what. I guess I don't have the souffle gene. So
Um,
it's like,
I'm missing the tartatin bean. I cannot make them work and caramelize.
uh,
And what question didn't I ask you that I should
um, well, I was going to go back to I think I touched on this before, but what my mother cooked and I don't anymore, where I do not do any of the organ food. Although I love it. I love the chicken livers, and I'll have it occasionally if I go to, what is that, that Peruvian place. I'll have them, and the kidney
have?
stew.
Pork.
Yeah, and kidney stew, which I love, but nobody else here does, so I don't make that anymore. So
Yeah,
they cook differently, and over the years I've changed my cooking style amazingly, mostly because of the heart problems that have, my daughter had an aortic dissection and my husband had a stent, and the way to conquer both of these is through diet, after these sessions happen. So we are mostly vegetarian, and again, I mean, we do eat fish, so I guess I'm a pescatarian, but we do more plant-based foods than we ever
right,
did before. And I don't
right.
miss the chicken and the beef and all that sort of thing, because it's We just don't have it.
I wish I could get to that, but I like my chicken. I like my
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here. I couldn't pass up. There's a new Safeway that opened up, and with an online thing, I got they had the whole turkey at 29 cents a pound. The
Uh-oh.
smallest one I could find was 17 pounds. So
Oh,
for
good
less
grief.
than $6, I'm going to break it down. I invited people over for Friendsgiving on Saturday, and like one person can make it, so I'm not sure I'm doing it, but we'll see.
It's all good.
Yeah, I can break it down, and I'm creative enough to use it all in a lot of different ways. I want to thank you so much,
Oh,
Dulany.
my pleasure.
I want to wish you the best of the holiday season and
Thank you.
pleasure, and appreciate the invites I get every once in a while to Berry Patch Farm because it's a joy. And to
And you
a
too.
health,
You too. We need to get together.
right, to a
Good.
healthy 2022 for everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're certainly
And
welcome.
I'm going to make some announcements here, make them general. Here we go. All right, everyone. We are off next week. We'll be returning December 2nd. My guest will be Nicole Bryan, who is a professional food stylist for leading brands Del Monte, French's, Kellogg's, Kroger, Lidl. You can reach me at Dara Cooks. That's my social. And you can email me at food@jameoreliving. And the shows, again, will be archived up on the Facebook page for Jameor Living, jameorliving.com. Feel free to share the show with friends and family. We appreciate it when you do that. Have a bountiful Thanksgiving, a happy Hanukkah for those who are celebrating, and may your plate always, always remain full. Have a good couple of weeks. Thank you for tuning in.